Alrighty. Can we get 3 cheers for Mario for pulling through even though she's...
Yo, it's literally hay fever.
Hip hip hooray!
Woohoo!
Hip hip hooray!
Woohoo!
Hip hip hooray! So we're gonna try and do the elevator pitch for the whole idea. We broke it down into 3 stages, my dear.
3 or 4.
You're right, it was 4.
Education, visualize
Hidden
ideas,
visualize society, $4 for 4.
$4 for kids. Okay, so this is what we did day before. I think a better way to do it is this. So this is my proposal, because you make sure that every problem has a solution, and if it doesn't, and a lot of these won't have immediate solutions, and that's okay. But looking at it like this, I think we can also identify, where do we start? What's the actionable thing we can do? What's the real thing we can start? Do you get what I mean? Tangible.
Sure. If it helps you with tangibility, then I'm all down.
I think so. I think it definitely will. Okay. So do we want to write them out again? Does not cover. Okay. All right. Can you make this smaller so I can sort of write stuff down?
How do you mean?
Zoom out, scroll down. Oh no.
You can, but well, I can do this.
Yeah, bring it down, and then I'll write them out.
Like this, bring it down. What do you mean? No. That'll be tricky.
What?
If I can't scroll, I have to deselect.
Oh crap.
Maybe I can use arrow keys.
Or can you cut it and paste? No. Okay. Okay. Let's just do it again. Okay. And then we can go back up to see if there's anything we've missed, which there probably will be. Okay. Problem 1 was, it is.
Yeah, not fun.
Draining.
Maybe I can get it up on my phone.
See. Oh no. What does dead mean? Oh, dated.
Okay, I got it up here.
Can you read it out to me?
Of course.
Dated for not fun.
Narrow objectives, i.e. exam results, a lot.
Objectives. Focus on exam. 6.
Lack of play. No.
Especially after a certain age.
It's encouraged at the start.
Yeah. I think that's because they think it's necessary when you're very young.
It's the only way you can
and then
concentrate.
it's actively discouraged after a certain. And then we make a very clear distinction between play and learning, which is interesting. I wonder where that came from. Could be something interesting to look at. Probably, if the purpose of education was to train people to work in jobs, the jobs make that distinction between your home life and your work life, and work life and your play, like work hard, play hard, as if they're very, very distinct, especially after a certain age.
Teaches you not underline twice to question.
Yeah, that's there.
Individuality not catered for.
Not or encouraged.
In some,
do you think that
like you have some teachers, you have some, but it's not the norm.
It's not built into the curriculum.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, which is interesting because we are all quite different. Well, we're also probably more similar than we're different. 8.
No recall explanation for why you.
No real explanation for why you're there. Like you don't know why you're in school or why you're studying and why you're studying a particular thing. Like why are we doing math? Because
it's useful.
They don't say because it's useful. They never said that to us. They were like, you never know when you might need it.
Oh, that as well. That was a classic.
What the hell does that mean? What does that actually mean?
Right. That was a classic. You never know.
It's like what? And and then when someone, like you pointed out last time, you rightly point at the fact that you're making us do something without like calculators when we can always, if we choose to, especially if you're doing it for a job. Like, spontaneously, if I need to know what 442 divided by 31 is, sure, I might have to like pull out a pen and paper. But if I'm doing it in a job, then you best believe I'm going to have a calculator
close by.
No real. And they're like, doesn't matter. They don't. They that kind of stumps them. It's like that's not the point. You never know.
What is the point then?
You never know. That's never gonna appease any kid ever. And if it has, wild.
Yeah. And that kid's an imposter.
That kid is a teacher. No real explanation for why you are there. Learning / why those subjects. Anything else?
So there's one more, but I think we can word it a little bit better. Does not cover important things like hierarchy. So maybe something like by important you mean like pressing issues or.
So that's why important was in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Okay, if you think we can word it better, go.
Ready, steady, go.
Oh God. Sorry, guys. Go.
Is social causes too narrow?
Causes makes it seem like it's not about
political,
like racism and stuff or like gender issues. We're talking about stuff that no one questions. Like the economic system that we should have. That's not questioned really. Whereas gender issues and stuff, that's been introduced into schools. So Gandhi was telling me that it happens a lot now. They talk about the patriarchy and stuff in loads of different subjects. Oh, Sikandar got a job.
A different one.
So Sikandar got the placement that he wanted. We can give him a call later when we're taking a break. He got he'll be going to university, and then once he finishes, so he's part-time at uni. He'll be working 3 days, I think, and he'll be at uni for 2 days, and then once he's done, that lasts for about a year. He's gonna he can get any job, like the job he wants anywhere in the country, which is really cool. And Zainab, who is not massively supportive with basically anything, she was like, that's a really great career path, because she looked into it, because it's part of NHS. Isn't that cool? He got it yesterday. Apparently my mum was like, he's really excited.
Everyone's getting jobs yesterday, man.
Gagushka.
That's why we were celebrating. I knew there was a reason. Okay, let's say it the way you said it. Okay, we'll give him a call after. Does not cover speech marks important things, i.e. hierarchy. Okay, 9 things, quite a lot.
It's good though, because it's just more games for us to create.
Hey!
Does not cover important. I'm gonna say important because
I think we can't get better than that right now.
For now, yeah. Important topics. For example,
I always thought it's a Y.
I always spell it if that doesn't look right. Sliders. Neither does that, but whatever. I can't.
Closer.
How do we solve the problem of it being draining? Oh, Jesus.
Don't worry, Lord. She doesn't mean you. She means Jesus.
But why? I don't. Can you explain to me why me saying Jesus is offensive to people, or calling the Lord's name in vain? What does that mean?
So imagine your job is to be on social media, and people at you, at Mario. Don't say anything. Just at Mario.
Yeah.
That's just bad manners, bro.
Why?
Because he was like, oh. Who needs my help? Oh, it's just Mario sneezing. Who needs my help? It's just Mario getting up.
What? But what if I say, oh God?
I don't know.
But that's also saying the Lord's name in vain. But then in Islam, you're actively encouraged, after you sneeze, you say, Alhamdulillah. Like I didn't die. Thank God. So then it's an act of remembrance. I don't know why it's calling the Lord's name in vain. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm never going to think about Jesus.
You don't have to. You just do things that are divine and sacred, and you will be nearer to Jesus. Amen.
Did you hit your head? What are you talking about, bro?
So how do we make it less draining?
Yeah. Gameplay? I think gameplay would help with that.
I was going to say times that make sense for a teenager. Can I get an amen?
What time makes sense?
Waking up at 7:30 ain't the time. I don't know what time it makes sense, but it ain't 7:30. I don't think it's 9 either.
See, we kind of have to pick our battles, pal, because keep in mind that the system has been structured so kids can go to school when parents
are at work.
Yeah.
That's literally all it's for. It's daycare.
Exactly.
It's daycare.
It's daycare. But given that it's daycare, our solution has to keep in mind beds.
Dude, you have school is great at the start. Then they corrupt it. Remember, you have the little you weren't here, but let me tell you what it's like. You have a little room. They roll out the mats. Halfway through the day, the kids have a little nap. That sounds brilliant. In Spain, they call it siesta.
Yeah, but that's kids do sleep during the day.
Humans sleep during the day.
Humans don't sleep.
Yes. During the day. Well, they don't now because they're not allowed to. But if they had the choice, they would.
Is napping good for you?
Yes.
Scientifically. Okay. Well, we can't see again. Keep in mind, you can't unless you're willing to build a school, which, bro, I'm down for.
Nigeria, here we come.
apart from that, you have to think, what can we do? We can't get them to put in beds in schools.
I know.
What
I
can
just
we
thought.
do?
I thought what we would do in our solution to that would be the times that we have the things would be. But you're right. They just be accessible 24/7 online, for example.
Mm.
But I just thought if we do an event or whatever, it would be. But
yeah, we can keep that into
consideration.
Keep that into consideration. Yeah.
Like in summer when the kids are on holiday, like now,
Mm-hmm.
don't do it at 9 in the morning.
In what world are you going to be awake at 9 in the morning?
For you, I'd be awake at 7.
No, you wouldn't.
No,
What are you
that's a
lying
That's a lie.
for?
I'd still be awake at 7. Okay, fine.
I think okay. So
I think
why is it draining?
the way you sequence new information, easy to consume, difficult to consume.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have topics that are fun, just fun. Like any subject, you just have topics that are fun, and the teachers know the topic's fun.
Yeah.
Because they'll like save it and they'll like move it around the year and be like, oh, I'm gonna have it here, I'm gonna have this topic here. Teachers know some topics are difficult. Individuals find certain topics difficult. And when I'm struggling, like when you explain a concept and I'm like, being forced to push along with maybe it's too big again.
Well, okay. So let's say we were designing a summer school.
Okay.
Right. Then we have more leeway, like a digital summer school.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Sounds cheap. Per dinner.
Mm-hmm. What we could do is, so you told me one of the things you tried to figure out when you wanted to work by yourself was try to understand how much work you are capable of doing.
Yeah.
That's one thing. So if you go way above 4 hours, you're going to be drained. It's gonna be by the end of the 4 hours, you're gonna be drained. Kids are in school for about 7 hours, right? And the amount of work, it's like 40 or 50 minutes per class, and you have like 6 classes a day. How much is that?
You're the math one.
It's about 4.5 hours. 4.5, I think. If it's 40 minutes.
Four.
Maybe just over 5 if it's 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, 5.5 if it's 50 minutes. So 4.5 and 5.5, right? Approx. That's a lot for a kid who doesn't know why they're there. One thing is you following your passion, doing stuff you actively enjoy, some of the time, not all of the time. Keep in mind that a child's, I don't know if that's, so deep work says you can work for about 4 hours. You can do 4 hours of deep work a day, right? And it was interesting that you came to that conclusion yourself. And they say it's, according to science, it's approximately true for everyone, from like Nobel Prize winners to Joe Schmo, Mario Khan, right? Right? I'm Joe Schmo. It is I. Okay. So tell them that, or allow them to figure it out themselves. So maybe we can figure out how to gamify that. How do we put that into a game? The quest to figure out how long you can work. Peterson says when you're quite young, you should try to figure out how much work you are capable of doing. That's not only deep work, because there's life beyond deep work.
Oh, calling me now.
No, but just put it off. Let me text him. We are streaming, pal.
Welcome to the.
Oh my god.
What?
Did I miscall him 25 times?
That's a next level pocket call.
I don't remember calling him once. Did I call him in my sleep?
That's true brotherly love, brother sisterly love. Get called in your sleep.
So how long ago? approximately? It's an hour or two?
Yeah, about an hour. Depends how long he wants the calls for.
Okay. Okay, so figure out some way to do that.
The answer to the problem is defining it. What makes it draining?
Yeah,
exactly. I feel like what we're going down.
Shut up! Sorry, I need to put it on loud because my lost keys. I called the sports centre I went to see if I. That's the only place I would have left them. There's nothing else, or I've dropped them in the flat as I was leaving.
No way, you locked that flat. I'm so confident you locked it
outside the flat, and someone's handed it into reception. You know what I mean? Okay. So I can tell Julian to look in our post box, or I can call them and find out.
So what does it mean to be draining?
Yeah. So let's scroll down a little
bit. Working more than you can.
That's one of them, yeah.
So focusing for longer than you can.
Why? Training.
Save.
Okay. Okay. Working
longer than.
I would say it's draining because you don't know why you're there.
Mm-hmm. So what you were saying, I'll let you finish then. When you were saying things that you want to do, and then you said rightfully sometimes, yeah. I believe that I'm working towards something that I believe is meaningful.
Yeah.
That's why I love the idea of having a project at the end of the year for the year group, yeah. Where it's like build a X, build a Y. Mm-hmm. We need, because for example, for some reason when I was in primary school, the field needed draining, so we couldn't use it. And then in high school, the field needed draining as well, so we couldn't use it for like the final 2 years. Mm-hmm. And imagine the kids actually got incorporated into some of that decision making. It got incorporated into some of the act of doing it, incorporated in some of the problem solving. Mm-hmm. Even if their solution is the best way, either because it's the best way or because it's financially the most viable, allow the kids to come to that conclusion. Yeah. And then we can go, okay, sure, now it's not just that we can't use the field for 2 years and it sucks, it's this is the problem. Yeah, you don't know why.
A lot of the time, exactly. You don't know why.
You just get these decisions made for you because you're a kid, shut up, and you just have to accept it because the adults know what they're doing. Simultaneously, you're online and you see adults doing madness, and you clearly know that either don't know what they're doing or they're doing what they want. And I feel like it's that incongruence that wears away. So working longer than you can, don't know why you're there, which falls into that.
It's not fun.
Not fun. And some things are, kind of don't know why you were there, kind of links into that, where like abstract with no purpose. It's kind of similar with don't know why you're there, but when you're learning about some like abstract concept in like maths or whatever, and it doesn't directly affect your ability to do maths. It's just like, this guy or physics.
Is it too abstract?
Yeah, like too abstract.
I would also say it's draining. Certainly, math was never draining for me. I would look forward to math because I really liked it. Whereas, say, English might have been quite draining for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it too. The fact that it doesn't matter the type of person you are. You're made to do everything. There's no kind of aptitude test or something given at the start of every year. You just have to pick your choices, whatever that means, in year 9 in our school. But before that, you have to do everything, and you have to do it at the same intensity with the same exams, regardless of whether, like, you could. I think the idea of sampling everything is very good.
So do I.
But the emphasis on the exam results it puts pressure on kids to work hard at something that they don't enjoy, doesn't resonate with them, and drains the life out of them. And so I think part of it's the individuality aspect as well. There's no consideration for individuality.
So when I compare myself to my previous self, go on.
Also, I think you're taught stuff before you're ready for it. Remember I think what that guy said was very interesting. The editor for Science magazine. Remember in the Chomsky, we can get it up actually. Can you get roll the internet? Load the internet. No, not YouTube. Search Science editor on learning science before before kids are ready.
Oh, I vaguely remember,
Do you remember
what you're talking about. Yeah.
So if we go on to the Chomsky education for whom and for what, we can get it up. I think I wrote it down here. Hold on. I think I might have made a note of it. So I think it
was saying like by the time you get there you don't care kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. By the time you've got there, you've been bored out of your mind that the interest for it's been beaten out of you.
Yeah.
And so even if it's so that when we were watching the video, Botti was talking about a piece that the editor of Science magazine, which is the American version of Nature.
Anyway, we know what it is.
Yeah, they don't though. It's not here. I can't remember where it was.
So a thing that makes me more aware than my previous self was the things that I can accept. And I feel like I like the idea that we create generalists, being more of a generalist myself, but I am willing to accept that that's simply not the nature of a people, especially not right-handed people. Oops, shots fired.
I wasn't listening to you in the slightest.
Put that phone down, kid.
No, I really want to know. I think that's so interesting. Because I think that's a big part of it.
We have the sentiment.
Okay, so how do we describe it? Learning before they're ready. Yeah. So his argument was that... Well, his argument was they're trying to introduce topics before kids are ready for them, and they make them kind of abstract, easy to consume, but the abstract nature removes the fun out of it, or the ease,
applicable to reality.
Yeah, like they don't know why they're there. They don't know
because science is inspired by nature. But you don't learn about science in nature.
Yeah, you learn in the classroom. Yeah. So how do we describe that? The topics are introduced before kids are ready.
Mm-hmm. I think it has to do with too abstract as well.
Yeah, we've got that.
That's what I mean.
Introduce. I really want to find it so I can get a better understanding of what he was saying. So I thought that point was very interesting. Because in my head, I thought the earlier you introduce something, the better, because you're challenging the kid early on. But I can completely understand why, had I been introduced to Chomsky when I was 12, it would have gone over my head, and I wouldn't have investigated further. And I wouldn't have had an interest in the things I'm interested in now. Like, say, I was introduced to philosophy much earlier on. Like, I have no interest in reading Shakespeare now because we were forced to read Romeo and Juliet and analyze it.
I think part of draining as well is forcing it. You're forcing it. Now, some level of quote-unquote force will be needed.
Completely. Like you said, there needs to be discomfort at the beginning. So it's quite unnatural to sit down as a child.
Yeah.
For a really long time.
Especially if you're not sitting down because you're tired.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're made to.
It's not like you're drained out. Which studies show that if you run your kid around and then sit them down and work, they're more ready for work.
They're not drained.
No, if they play. Not if you just like put them on a treadmill.
Come on, kids.
Hamster wheel.
Study. Also, the act of regurgitation, which I think is what they focus on, is so boring that it's Victorian.
Where the way you would learn languages in the Victorian era was I think my mum had to do it like that with Latin. They would just say the same word over and over again, same sentence over and over again. You don't really know what the words mean, you're just saying it over and over and over again, and then eventually they expect you to learn language. So that's part of regurgitation.
Yeah. That's quite a lot for wide draining.
So what I wanted to say was, the reason I believe I'm more aware than my previous self, one reason for that is, I've got a bit of an upset something, is that baklava, first thing, is probably not the best thing.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Because it's
too exciting.
Was because I'm able to accept certain things. And as a generalist, I like the idea of teaching our kids to be generalists or more general, but I'm also open to the idea of accepting that that's simply not the case, especially for the vast amount of people.
Yeah, but some kids like to be specialists.
But that's what we do, right? That's what I'm talking about. What's happening? You do history and geography and maths and science and music and art. If you go to our neighbours here, either one guy's middle-aged, other guy's done with work, ask them how much of these topics that we're arming our children with, the broad horizon, how much do they know about geography actually, apart from like names of places? How much do they know about tectonic plates and different rock sediments actually? Do they have some kind of internal intuitive remnants that they can draw upon? Do they have some kind of intuitive understanding that they can use to Google or talk about it? Or have they just been completely forgotten about it? I would hope it's the prior, but I'm my pessimistic side is saying it's the latter. And so this idea of, we have to make them do all these different things, I think that's part of the mistake.
Yeah. So I think the way they go about introducing topics is wrong. I think the idea of introducing lots of topics is right. Just I think we go about it in the wrong way. I don't know how to go about it.
I can apply it how from music. So in our school they had they were kind of old instruments, but we had access to instruments. You guys probably didn't.
We had
you had a guitar.
The bins and sticks. No, we had a piano. Come on, mate.
You mean a keyboard?
No one can steal a piano by first.
Was it a straight up piano?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if it was like a grand piano. It was a piano.
No, but it wasn't a keyboard. It wasn't electric.
I have no idea what that means.
Okay. So I would try a little bit of trombone, a little bit of trumpet, a little bit of acoustic guitar, a little bit of electric guitar. I don't think they had drums in primary school, but... And then years later, when I wanted to try the guitar again, I had that little bit of foundation that I could go towards Whereas if I didn't have that, my mum, she would love to learn saxophone. She's retired now. She's like, oh, I can't, it's this, it's that.
Tell her that apparently when you hit 60, you have this childlike ability to pick up new skills. I swear to God, they actually showed that this
probably because you stop working.
It's not, because people keep working till they're 70. Yeah. It might be 50 or 60.
Okay.
But you can, like, you get people who suddenly become, like, not world class, but really, how many people become world class? Anything. Yeah. They become incredibly talented at a skill that they're learning at that age. Amazing. Which is wild. Even skills that they've never done before, that they just pick up. And it's not people who are just extraordinarily good at picking things up. Like even languages, you know how your ability to pick up languages diminishes.
So we need to summarize this and put it here. Number 1.
Yeah. See, a lot of these points are going to be either have multiple solutions that we need to try.
There's overlap as well.
And there's overlap with a lot of the stuff that, a lot of our problems.
Let's skip to 2.
Yeah, we can. We can. That's a big one. Training is a very big one. Teaches you not to question is pretty easy. Get them to question stuff, I think. Because the...
Create systems or create structures that reward unique perspectives or something like that. Or
just encourage kids to question. I think that's a pretty easy one to, like, if I introduce a topic, so one of the things that I really liked with your idea was that you introduce a topic via a simulation. You allow them to participate under a particular, like a rule set. That topic, let's say, if that's like the patriarchy, whatever, you show them, you simulate the patriarchy, however we do that, and allow them to try different things with the simulation, and that's the digital asking questions type thing. It's just exploring a topic, and then allowing them to come to conclusions themselves, rather than saying the patriarchy is bad. And it's like, don't question it. Climate change is bad, don't question it. That's it. I'm telling you this, and that's all. We're done with this now. Next. And I think that's the thing that I would like to do. So I think we've kind of already got an understanding of number 2, at least. But just generally encouraging kids. I think it's, maybe you don't have time in every lesson. I can understand why they don't do that in school. Just underfunding, but also there's a time constraint because they're trying to fit in so much.
On the plus side, though, education is now to 18. So I think that should now be factored in. Why are we having the same structure? We've got 2 extra years. We can reshuffle things, I'm sure.
What do you think about uni being at 18?
I think for some people, I feel like the thing about uni is you're, for the first time, 99, probably 0.5% of students are away from home for a considerable amount of time. And that's the most significant thing that's happening.
Yeah, it's the biggest change.
It's the biggest change. It's not the fact that they're choosing a subject that they want. You do that in college. It's not the fact that you can wear what you want. You do that in college. It's not the fact that you can eat what you want. You do that in college. So I think that's, ignoring that is kind of the idea of the system not being aware of what's actually happening. Now they kind of do, right? Because the first year doesn't count for much. So they kind of expect you to pay 9,000 just to go crazy. Like, why not? Anyway. So you think it's too early, or?
I'm not sure. I've never really thought about it. I'd have to. I think independence is good. Whether 18 is the right age, I don't know. I only have my own experience really to compare it to. Maybe for me it was too early, but maybe for me it was also necessary to grow up. I think getting out, because I think I took on a lot more responsibility when I moved out.
I think there's a correlation between independence and self-reliance. And I think that correlation isn't that close within the current system. I think it could be made closer. Because you're taking on debt, that's not self-reliance.
Yeah.
You're spending it on pizza instead of cooking, that's not self-reliance. Part of that is because you just want to chill and want to do all these things that you don't do. But part of it is you're actually studying a lot. And you don't want to be thinking, oh, I'm going to cook this, I'm going to da-da-da, especially if you've not been taught how to do that. If you know how to make dal, if you know how to make chickpea, if you know how to make potato and whatever and ever, it's not that hard. You cut some stuff up, you know how to make easy meals.
Exactly.
If your parents
it's quite
don't know
daunting.
How to do that, it's very daunting.
Because you kind of go there with no skills.
Exactly.
But you're expected to pick up skills from where though? I'm studying.
And you're not rewarded.
I'm trying to meet people. Exactly. It's actively... No, it's not discouraged. It's just, it's not...
Discredited.
It's almost... What's an anti-reward? Because it takes your time. Then you have mess. And you have to clean up. And then that takes more time.
And then someone else in the flat doesn't clean up after themselves. So you probably have to clean someone else's pots just to use your pot just to clean the pot. So you're washing twice.
I'm so grateful that I never had that experience. Honestly, I don't know what that's like.
Amazing.
Part of me thinks I didn't have a real university experience because I'd never...
You never had mouldy stuff growing in the kitchen?
No, it was full disclosure, it was cleaned for us. But do you know what? You can understand why they did that. It wasn't because, oh, we needed to be looked after. Bro, they were looking after their own investments. They were looking after their buildings. Okay. All right. Teaches you not to question.
Incorporate the students into the topic.
Okay.
Wait, what is incorporate?
Isn't it?
It might be, mate.
That looks like evaporate from my eyes right now. Incorporate students into topic. Encourage / reward. Whatever that is. Exploration.
Exploration is similar to experimentation as well. Like you have to write it, but we just know that's the case.
Yeah. Oh Jesus!
Instead of just like.
Are you gonna switch it up?
Like you said, instead of just accepting something as true, you can, because the times when I would get something is where they would give me some parameters, and you would play with the parameters. And like sometimes like you have like math equations or whatever, and like the more you something, the closer it gets to the line or something like that, or you have a phenomenon where like pi, where it's like, oh, what was it, 3.141, and then you're kind of close, and then the more decimals you get, more and more accurate towards it. And like we did it with the golden ratio with pi, with phi, things like that, where you can just. Oh, right, yeah, and you try and deviate and you see that it doesn't work and it kind of draws you back to the answer again. You're like, okay, I understand why it's like this now. That's what exploration can do. And in the offshoot, once every few years, a kid might stumble across a better way of doing things, That sounds beautiful. Dated.
Yep. Update, dude.
Update, yeah. Incorporate.
Figure out what we need to... Okay, so for dated, your reasoning was education was for a particular thing. Yeah. That thing is less and less in need now because the types of jobs people are doing are different. Yeah. So given that, figure out where the change is occurring and therefore reorient education so it takes that into account.
Exactly.
So update get a better understanding of what topics are relevant today. Like, so for example, coding should be introduced
Yeah.
relatively early on, because it is really fun as well. It's really fun for kids because it is project based. So I think unless you really hate math and
but even then there are loads of great websites now where you have code blocks and you slot them in. That's brilliant.
It's fantastic. And it's all free. That's the crazy thing. They don't take advantage of that, which is wild.
Shout out my open source anarchists.
So okay, update. Find out important relevant subject today. Not fun. Gameplay.
Gameplay.
But also all this other stuff. Not fun and draining is very similar. So let's skip past it for now.
Incorporate more teamwork. That's a nice 5. Narrow objectives.
Short
what? No, I like it.
That looks better.
I thought the other one looked better.
Narrow objectives. Yeah. I think when you're younger, topics should be introduced without.
Then the question is how, when you have a 1 to 25, 1 to 30 ratio of educator to educatee, how are you meant to know when someone is doing well and when someone is doing badly? Now, I've spoken to a teacher before, and he said, we know. We know who's good at the subject and who isn't. Now, maybe not every teacher knows that. 1. 2, how do you validate that, right? Let's say a teacher doesn't like you. Let's say a teacher is biased in some way or lazy or incompetent in some way. Having a standardized exam will allow you to break free from that type of human error. So how can we introduce a way of allowing kids to allowing the system to understand how well they're educating their children without focusing so heavily on exam results?
Project?
So I like the idea of giving speeches, like you just talk about it for a few minutes. However,
some kids are really shy.
I said this. So this is something I thought a long time ago, and a friend of mine was like, "No, man, I would hate that."
Yeah, a lot of kids would.
So I think ultimately, in a kind of more abstract sense, Mr. Abstract, how can the education system get a feedback loop with the students? Right, because if someone's underperforming, you want that to feed into the system, and then the system can try and do something to help that, or account for that, or redirect that in some kind of way. And in the past, it's been, you got a C, you're expected a B, what's going on? Which can be okay. So in Germany, they do loads of exams. So there are different types of school systems. You have like general school, and you kind of have like pre-college school, and like you have like skillmanship school, kind of like where you learn professions and stuff. And in the one that takes you onto uni for Abitur, a friend of mine, he was taking exams like every 2 weeks, like small exams. Seemed pretty terrible to me, but he found it okay.
But what were the exams about?
The thing they just learned.
Like in America when they have like pop quizzes.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe. Instead of
maybe he was just a kid that liked exams. I kind of liked exams.
Well, amazing.
Okay. So one thing would be, you were talking about underperforming. I think rather than you are underperforming, what can we do to help you? I think it should be, you don't seem to like this topic very much. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Try to get an understanding of why they don't like something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the kind of, does this resonate with you? I just never, because I was dyslexic, I didn't like English.
Mm-hmm.
Like the words just, and also I was an immigrant, and so I didn't really like English. You can make the argument that because you were an immigrant, then you should probably work on your English, which is fine, but you can work on your English without studying English.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare just seemed like a whole other language that you had to learn, which was kind of wild. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand why we were doing that. I really like creative writing because I just liked it. But if I was encouraged to, because you can improve your English with creative writing.
Absolutely.
So if I was encouraged to do more creative writing, I think I probably would have read more books.
Okay. I also loved creative writing. I'm not sure it would have made me read more books.
You though, but it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that every kid would read more books. I would have read more books at a young age.
I'm not sure what have. See, that's the thing. What would have made me want to read more books? Not that much, probably.
But that's okay. You don't need to read books. You could have had something else. You could have had animations of books.
But then you're not. How much are you learning English if you're not reading it? Like, how much are you learning a language if you're not reading it?
A lot of people learn by listening. A lot of people, people say that the best way to learn language is to move to that country and converse with people. It's not to read a book.
That's true.
So I don't think the only way to learn a language, and also the proportion of immigrants is relatively small. We're not talking about immigrants. We're talking about narrow objectives right now. And so with that, I think I would stress out. I would really stress about English because I felt like it was bringing down my average. And I didn't really like it very much. But I think we should, when someone's doing badly at something, you should try to get an understanding of why they're doing badly first and foremost. What is it about this topic? Some people just don't like things. Maybe it's too early for them for a particular thing.
Absolutely.
You can revisit it later. But right now, you can literally archive it for a person.
I think the thing that why should education stop at X? Why should education stop at 18? Why should it stop at 21?
It shouldn't.
It should continue. And it does. It's just the education turns from actual learning about your general environment to learning about your work environment and how you can maximize productivity. There are benefits to that, but
I think people learn constantly.
They do, but what? Yeah, I think it becomes more and more specific, more and more narrow, like about their field.
I mean, there's the official education, and then there's the education, voluntary education that takes place on like YouTube.
I don't know. Maybe I'm pessimistic. How often is Hudam Lala going on YouTube and educating himself?
A lot. He reads a lot. A lot. He loves that. He loves watching videos about different things. The type of stuff.
Than someone else.
But Sai will learn on TikTok. But she learns on it. It's an informal version, and I would bet that a lot of people. Well, sorry guys. A lot of people do stuff like that. We just don't call it learning, and I think that's kind of unfair. But people do engage in. Some people won't, like Sani was saying yesterday. Some people just don't. Some people will never, and that's okay too. Some people, it's like, I mean, is it okay? I don't know, but we can't help everyone. And I'm just saying,
well, they're learning
people engage in voluntary learning once they leave school, learning that they never would have done in school because they hated school, but then they leave school and they realize, oh, I actually like learning random facts. That's why those like facts that will blow your mind blow up. Why do they go viral? That's a form of informal learning from my perspective, at least. Why do you think people want to? People are curious. Like, by nature, humans are curious. That curiosity is kind of beaten out of us in school, but despite that, it persists. That's why there's so much. That's why YouTube has blown up. That's why, whether it's learning about the lives of others, it's still learning. You know what I mean?
Stretching it a bit, but I'm still with you.
I think it's learning. It's a form of learning. It's not learning that we or you might value. It's a type of learning, though, I think.
It's not by my value. But
okay.
I'm just like, you know, when you have...
I was just trying to throw you in front of the bus.
Yeah,
It's coming.
I'm holding on to the bus. Because the reason I wanted to bring that up was because there's this rush to make sure kids know about everything they need to know by this specific time.
Yeah.
But if we accept that learning is a thing that humans naturally do, whether you force them or not, that if they have some kind of natural curiosity towards math, they'll find their way back towards math. You just need to have the past there to facilitate that journey of knowledge.
But luckily,
then you can just be like,
there's
okay, Armand doesn't care about geography right now. That's fine. Plant the seed. Have him, create a North Star.
Yeah, so he has the awareness that this thing exists.
He can return back to that. And he knows how and what he needs to do in order to return back to that in the future.
Yep.
Instead of being like, oh my god, he doesn't know geography.
Yeah. He's really good at everything with geography and is the reason he won't get into uni because he failed. It's like, why? Really, why? Why does he need to know geography if he's doing maths at uni? You know what I mean? Oh, it's an indicator. Well, it's an indicator that he doesn't like geography.
Yeah.
Which is actually, I think that probably affects a lot of people. They don't get into the subjects they want to because uni zoom out and they're like, what is this person great at everything? Is this person great at all these things? And I think that's quite unfair to a lot of students who are really good at certain things and then are mediocre or average for a lot of things, and then they can't get into the uni they want for the subject that they want. That's what I kind of like about coding, where now it's like the demand's so high, they don't care that you've been to uni. They don't care. As long as you have these skills. If you've got the skills, we don't care that you haven't been to Oxbridge. We don't care that you didn't go to a private school when you were younger, you know, or you got 45 A stars in your A levels. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's a lot more level playing field, I think, with coding. I'm not sure about access and stuff, but I've seen a lot of free stuff online, which is super cool. Really excited. Okay, so narrow objectives. How do we...
Is it about acceptance? Weren't you saying if you got a C instead of a B, instead of why are you into the narrative of why are you underperforming?
Yeah.
It's what is it that you don't like about this?
Yeah, like what? Like try to understand why.
Or what's going on at home. I think that's also a thing, but
again, can we reach that? Yeah, right now.
We can't, but can schools? And if they can't, then that's one reason that they're failing.
Oh, 100%. That's probably a reason why a lot of people are. I think, yeah, okay. So there's kids that do well and then badly on certain things, and there are kids that just don't do well because there's underlying issues going on. Because I think if there's something going on at home, it's likely that you're probably going to be strained kind of across the board.
But I still think if you like that maths and sport, you still will accelerate at that.
Yeah.
Because for me it was, you're good at biology, why are you not good at random other topic? Okay.
Like, what's the connection?
Because the teacher's a moron, maybe?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry to your biology teacher.
No, that was that teacher was good.
Sorry to your random topics
there we
teacher.
Go, there we go.
Okay, so try to get an understanding. So this is a big one. I don't think we can start here. Off.
I see what you're doing now, though.
What?
Don't worry, I see you.
Try to get an understanding of why kids don't perform.
/enjoy
particular topic. Yeah. 6. Lack
so
of play.
In what we were talking about the simulation. Which topic was that?
Teaches you not to question. Teaches you not to question.
Oh yeah, teaches you not to question. One of those could be, because I was just thinking the rebuttal to this. It's like, this is all fine and dandy, butterfly boy, but there are certain requirements that we need for our society to work. And
like what?
Like someone needs to do this job, someone needs to do that job, someone needs to be able to do this. This needs to do it. There are certain things that society need to happen: logistics, waste, food, etc., energy. And is it reasonable to believe that all those jobs will be favourable? No. How do we make someone do something that's not favourable? Well, you tie their life to money, and then therefore you provide money for this undesirable thing.
This is a saucy take.
And so in those teaches you not to question, let's say we do live in that reality. Let's say we do live in a reality where we can't be this lovey-dovey. At least then the students can...
Thank you.
At least then the students can figure that out for themselves. It's like, yeah, but remember year 9 when we did the thingy simulation and no one would take the bins out or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's a beautiful idea. Simulate real life and see whether people do the bad things. And then come to a conclusion about what that means for those bad things. And they can understand why certain things, like bin men are paid like a lot. Why is that?
Collection officers.
Okay.
Lack of play, especially after a certain age. Yeah, games.
Gaming. World of Warcraft.
Stuff will die a death.
Oh my god. Games.
Play. Individuality is not catered for. Okay. See, this is an interesting one still.
Again, I think it's the exploration. I think that will allow you to... I think people kind of slot into groups. You'll know. You can't really figure out who you are. What does that even mean? Like, let's break that down. What does that mean? You become who you are through biology and through your environment. And so you don't know who you are until you go out into your environment and you start adding blocks. And I think that's the exploration of subject matter. But also life. There's real life.
Life.
Yeah, that was weird. Life. You could have just let that go.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was too good. I choose life.
I'm an immigrant, okay?
So am I. Individuality not catered for or encouraged.
I think that's exploration.
So just exploration. Yeah. What came to my mind was taking the good with the bad Like if you imagine it as sequence, and sometimes you just do badly in, in music.
Yeah.
And just learn to, instead of it being something that you immediately need to correct because a B is always better than a C and an A is always better than a B, have it be, okay, you've failed in this or you've not done well in this or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just be aware, like, how does that make you feel? What was going on in your life? Just accept that.
Did you expect something different, and why?
Exactly.
Why did you expect that?
Exactly.
That's good. Feedback. That's feedback for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be via, I want to say questionnaire, but that sounds so rubbish.
So dry.
But just a way for that person, upon receiving, like one thing I did, I had an interview, and when it was like an assessment center type thing, and I went for it. I did really well, and I felt really good. So as soon as I left that, I wrote my future self a note, and I said, no matter what the result, remember how you felt today. You did really well. People came up to you and asked you, like, literally, how did you do that? Like, how were you so confident or how did you think so quickly on your feet? I had like 3 people come up to me, right? And that had never happened before. And I was like, it doesn't matter what the result is. The feeling of what you did today was incredible. Keep that in mind. So don't get sad and don't be disheartened, because you're on the right path towards you're on the right path towards confidence and figuring out what it is that you like to do, figuring it out. Exactly. And yeah, so I think that really helped me. So that's what I did. So we can, I'm not saying that is what everyone should do, write to their future selves or anything, but that's a possibility. But I really like writing anyway. So
like a time capsule type vibe.
Exactly.
Imagine you, because something that I realized that I thought was very unstable, because naturally societies are in and out, and in one of the key values of in is stability. Girls, for me, it was just girls who did this, from my experience, who always did really well in exams. They'd always come out being like, I failed, and get an A star.
Me, literally me.
Scum of the earth. And
that's how I felt. But getting an A seemed like failure. That's what I mean. So you can't call them scum of the earth. That's how they feel.
You can't not call them scum of the earth when I was getting a C.
It's okay. A C's as good as an A star.
And the first thing that they would fail at would be the classic is driving test. And they just break down. Or they won't get into the uni they want. Or when they get to uni in their final year or whatever, or they won't get the job. Somewhere along the chain that has been made for people to get to work, they will eventually meet failure. But they've never failed before. Not really. They got an A instead of an A star. That's not actual failure. That's another thing that's
part of life, dude. That exactly. We need to add failure.
Loss.
Failure and loss. Different things, but yeah, we can add that to the fundamentals. That's a fundamental. Failures, if anything's a fundamental, it's probably failure.
That's how you learn. So at the very least, there's a consensus apparently. Failure is 2 to 1. You remember your failures twice as much as, or you basically weight your failures on twice as much as your successes. Minimum, maximum around 9 to 1.
Jesus.
So depending on the individual and the situation.
Yeah.
And that's not encouraged or incorporated. How to deal with it, how to learn from a mistake like that.
Not until you're much older, and then you have books that once you're in the corporate world, you're kind of like failing forward. So yeah, we could literally read that and see what they say.
I thought you read Failing Forward.
I didn't read Failing Forward. I read something.
Okay, from the same guy or something.
I don't know if it was from the same guy, but something about failure. It's hard though. See, you get to an age where failure feels so bad that it's difficult, despite how much you read, for it to truly resonate. It takes a really long time for you to let that in because it's such a fundamental. Well, first of all, I think biologically, loss and failure feels really bad for a reason, right? Like Peterson says, a win feels good, but a loss feels much worse because like a failure or a bad thing feels way worse because you could die, right? But the most you can win is marginal, whereas the most you could lose is everything.
Yeah.
And so that's the biological or the evolutionary aspect of it. So I think you need to be taught quite young that failure is normal. Before, in order to, I think, address that, because otherwise it digs itself in. Like right now, even though on some level I understand that failure is good, it's a learning process.
Useful,
it's useful, and that it's good. It kind of means that you're doing something. If you never fail, that means you're not doing anything, right? But do I understand that viscerally? I don't know. I don't think so. And I think part of that's because for a really long time, I was that kid. I was that A-star kid that needed to not fail because that was my whole identity, not failing. And so I think if I'd been taught that younger, that would have been way better for me today.
But I think interestingly, everything is an exchange. You probably would have got fewer A-stars.
I was thinking that too. But is that something that...
Would you rather have the failure happen in a controlled environment or when they're out in the world on their own in New York or something, you know?
Exactly. And failure is, it's like, yeah, I would have had some fewer A-stars, and yeah, maybe I wouldn't have gone to the same uni, or I wouldn't have made the same pals or whatever. But the alternative is failure can be debilitating, dude. Failure can result in people doing some crazy stuff that I don't want to mention because I was about to get banned for the third straight video in a row.
She's on a mission.
Yeah, like failure you can have someone who's performing really well. So the Gilmore Girls is a really interesting example. There's a kid so it's like about a mom and a daughter. And the daughter does really well her whole life. And the first time she deals with failure, she quits uni and starts doing, like, she steals a boat and she gets arrested. Like her whole life just unravels because her whole identity, and I can relate to that. It's literally your whole identity. So you do some crazy stuff. So the loss of a few A-stars versus potentially
losing it,
like losing everything that you've worked so hard for this whole time. For me, it's like it's a no-brainer. And
nice. Yeah. So we're gonna have to add we're gonna have to add failure to the fundamentals.
Failure/loss, or failure and loss. Yeah.
That's why I like, in particular, chess, because you can focus so hard, try so hard for 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you just make one wrong move and you just lose the whole game. And things that have helped me and just to deal with that feeling, to realize how upset you are, to take a break from it, not to do the salty run back. That happens in trading as well. Revenge trading. You make a mistake, you go straight back into another trade to try and make the money back. And I'm sure it applies into lots of other things. And finally, play.
That's how I lost all my money.
How I win, because I'm still low rated in chess. How I win a lot of games is when I make that mistake, I'll be annoyed, but I'll keep playing. I won't surrender, and I'll keep playing. Because we're both bad players. And when he makes a mistake, chances are he won't react as calmly as I will. He'll start tilting, and then I'll get the win. He won't be able to. He'll think he's win because when you're winning, it's hard to stay focused as well. You're like, oh, I'm up a rook. I'll just do whatever. I can chill now. I'm winning.
I've got leeway to lose.
And then they'll throw it away, and then that loss will cascade, that kind of thing. So it kind of becomes like a way to a battle of control, who can control their emotions. Beautiful. Number 8 and 9, then we'll take a break and talk to you, bro.
Stop touching. 8. Okay.
No real explanation for why you are there, learning why those subjects. Exactly. I think part of that is because of the reality. Because if the teachers were aware enough, they'd say something that sounds a little bit dystopian.
You're cattle.
You're a free human spirit whizzing around on a tiny rock, and we're trying to cultivate that energy to better the economy. That's one of the main reasons. That's one of the narratives.
We're giving your parents childcare.
We're giving the parents free childcare so they can work. Yeah. That's
so they can better the economy.
So they can be. There are two narratives that are true. The two values that are valuable in believing it. Hearing that doesn't sound too great.
No.
So instead, it's you need to know this. You don't want to be dumb. You don't want to be an illiterate.
I think you're illiterate without that. Okay. Okay. So I would say give a because I think the cynical reason is, for me, I think there's value in education beyond the reason they educate us. Like they did a good thing for the wrong reason, but they've done a good thing. Like education for the masses is incredible. I think that's one of the most amazing things Western countries have managed to do. And so, but give them a reason for why they should learn, or why they should want to learn, why they should want to be there, rather than why are you actually here? And because we're not going to explain to people why they're at school.
We're going to explain being educated.
Yeah, why you should learn, or why you should want to learn. Sorry, the nasal sprays in my nose and it's
tingling.
No, it smells awful.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? And if you taste it in the back of your throat, it's horrible. Isn't it?
Well, you have to, because I feel like a.
I know what you mean.
Right, I feel like I'm snorting something because I put it in and I'm like, and I have to do this, and I feel like I have to look at the ceiling and it feels really strange. I'm like, is this what it feels like to do bad things? Okay. Try to give them
like a kind of narrative of it's a really old world that we're living in, and many people have come before us, and they're testing, they're experimenting, they're suffering. Or through their suffering, they've learned certain things. We want to pass down those things that they've learned, as well as just like you can sharpen a knife, just like you can mold pottery out of clay. You can get molded and sharp. Your mind can get molded and sharpened. Your body can get honed.
Yeah, exactly. Kids, girls used to hate doing PE. Why? You think they don't want to look good? They want to look good, but they hated PE, right? But they didn't understand why we were doing PE, and they didn't see value in it. They saw it as a DOS subject where they could like put on gym clothes and then sit in the side and pretend they were on their periods. Wow. Do you know how many times girls play their period card and the teacher was like, weren't you on your period last week and the week before that? Like, yeah, miss, I've got weird periods.
I think I'm pregnant.
Why 5 years of period?
Does not cover important topics.
Simulate the important topics. That's it. That's an easy one. Simulate. Also, ask them why they think they should learn.
Mm-hmm. And that feeds into the second point of asking questions.
Yep. Yep. Okay. That's good for now. That's a big boy. That's a lot. Education's a big one.
Education's
Is it the biggest boy?
It might be the biggest boy, yeah. At least in terms of not scale, but in terms of like nuance.
Mm-hmm.
How long we been going for?
I'll probably tell us when we stop now.
1 hour 20.
Mm-hmm.
90 minutes? No, not quite.
80.
Okay, so we've got a new way of formulating it, not doing the cloud anymore.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah, clearer.
Yeah.
Like a pre and a
make
post.
sure you understand all the problems.
And then
so PSI has evolved as well, which is cool.
PSI got PSI'd.
PSI got eyed.
PSI got eyed. Nice. And then we'll come back and we'll try and create a narrative associated with that, which is an elevator speech.
Yep.
And then maybe we can. Oh, and we have to add failure.
Yeah.
To the key.
Fundamental.
Fundamentas. Okay, my lovelies.